Hi everyone, this is Teresa from Country Tapestry again, and today is going to be just another very basics sort of video. I'm getting ready to start this pattern here by Paula Vaughn called In the Garret. And first thing I want to talk about is selecting the size of your fabric that you're going to use. And what I do is I use a fabric calculator. Very simple, just Google cross-stitch fabric calculator, and I use the one at yarntree.com. And what you do is you put in the number of stitches of the design size, and all the patterns will have an area somewhere in their key that has this information. And I'm going to insert some photos of the details that this pattern has here. And most of them somewhere will tell what the model is stitched on. And the model on this one was on a cream Belfast linen that was 32 count. And that is one of my favorite counts, and is what I'm going to be stitching this on. It's stitched 2 strands over 2, and it tells you, in this one, they don't always tell you the design size for the model stitch, but this one does. It tells you that the model's design size, now that's not your fabric size, that's the size the design will be, so you need to leave you a little border around, is 10 5/8 by 6 3/4. And I like to leave at least 3 inches around all the edges, sometimes 4, and that is just so that once it's all done and I've washed it and I've blocked it, I know that I'm going to have plenty of room to either turn it into a pillow, a wall hanging, or to frame it. Now, here's my piece of fabric I'm going to be using for this, and you'll see that coral colored line there? I am very fortunate that I have a serger, so I serge all my fabric off. Then I look at the pattern and see if it's taller than it is wide, or if it's wider than it is tall. And once I have my piece of fabric I'm going to be using, and I cut it to the size that I want, I will go back and use my sewing machine and stitch me a line in a contrasting color on the part of the fabric that I am going to consider the top. That way, if I've only got a few stitches in and I get distracted, I lay down my Q-snap and I come back, I'm not going to suddenly be orienting the fabric the wrong direction. It will save you in the long run. And I stitch it all the way across. Occasionally what I will do is go just up in a corner, like where my needle is, and just put one little line. I might even just cross me in one X that's up in the top. Anything that I can just pick the fabric up and look at it and go, yes, that's the top. Then what I'll do is, if it's something I'm going to grid, then when I go to start the pattern, I might start in the left hand corner at the top, or I might start in the middle. It depends on the pattern, how it looks like, where a good starting spot would be for me. I do not generally work from the bottom up. I'm just never been comfortable stitching that way. and I'm sure it's because when I first learned, I learned to stitch from the top down. which is why it doesn't feel comfortable. Then after I have got my fabric cut, I will find the center. I'm not sure if it's showing very well, but there's a tiny little stitch right there that's marking my center. I will mark my center by putting a little stitch in it. And the way I find my center is you can either measure in from the edges, or you can simply fold your fabric over, then mark the corner. Take a needle or something and just run through there and then unfold it and put your stitch in. Most of the time, unless you're really short on fabric, if you're a line or two off one way or the other, it's not going to be a big problem. Fixing and my fabric, it's the same thing, the golden rule that you should always use when you're cross-stitching, sewing, building a deck. Measure twice, cut once. And I can sometimes be a little paranoid and I might measure 4 or 5 times and cut once. But always, always, always double check your measuring. Then cut. Now this one, I already have my floss out. It's on the little book rings, sorted by, like, these are the 3000s. What I'll do now is this one I'm going to stitch using a Q-snap. And so I'm going to be putting it on this. Now I've looked at the pattern and I have found where the center stitch is, and what I'm going to do is look where the center stitch is and think for a few moments, do I want to start exactly where that's at, or is there an area up above or down below or out to the side where it would be a little easier to start. Easier as in it'll give me a good reference point to work around. And in this pattern, the center is in one of the dresses, and I think what I'm going to do is either go a little bit to the left and start on the chest lid, because the center is in this dress. And so I may start here on the trunk. That would give me a really good place to work from. Or I may go over and start working on the window. I haven't 100% decided which I'm going to do yet. I know for certain that I would not start this one up in the corner, because it has a lot of little half stitches and things up in here, and I would like to start working somewhere around in the center and work my way out or up, because I want to keep the back very neat. I want to work cross country and work one color in a larger area where it's the most comfortable to work that, and that will speed my stitching up. So I'm going to determine where I'm going to go and then put this on the Q-snap so that the area that I'm stitching is going to be, you know, the biggest area in here, so I won't have to move my Q-snap really soon. And I will come back once I determine where that's at, and we'll start a little stitching. We'll get this project going.